Good afternoon.
Morning.
Don't know, honey.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a feeling my headphones died. I didn't have them plugged in right.
Ah,
So picky. So you get to see how bad my hair really is today.
or you could go without video like me.
Oh, but I know you guys want to see my lovely face.
That's true. We do.
Okay, there's some.
Like to know who we're talking to.
I do
Well,
too. Notice most of
mine
you-
says Lisa's iPhone 13, I think.
We're all having a bad hair day, so except for Cheryl and Merrick. Yeah, yours looks good. Yeah.
Are you feeling better, Denise?
I was until I got up this morning. We were talking about that this thing just keeps on going. It just doesn't. My hair looks awful.
See,
Yeah.
there you get to see me this time.
Nancy's having a good hair day. And Anna are looking good. Ray, you always look good, you know.
No, I don't. That's why I had the video off. But you inspired me to turn it on, even though I look terrible.
Yeah, well, we all, most of us are sick. All of us are having a bad hair day. Let's just do it together, okay? I sent out an email to just a few minutes ago. If you are already registered in Judges, hey, how's Susan? You will receive an email, okay? If you're not and you want to be, you need to let me know, okay? So I just sent out and I said something like you were registered, real
Yeah.
original like that.
I saw that.
So-
I registered.
Ola, huh?
I registered.
Wait,
You did.
Oh, I asked if
I'm
she
going to
was
start
ready.
loading pretty quick.
Was like this about before 15 minutes ago or something.
Yeah, just a few minutes ago. So anyway. Oh, I need to start, right? Okay. I'm so sorry. Just not with it, I don't think. Here we go. There we go. All right. So wasn't this fun reading all this great words? All these places and stuff. I am not going to ask you to memorize all that, okay?
Yeah, that was a lot of like multi-syllable words, like
Well,
location.
Yes, it was.
yeah, those locations, but you got the gist of it, right? The northern and the southern, that
Yeah.
was the biggest thing.
Mhm.
So, well, this week, our priest, had this great, he did a really great, you know how sometimes they do a bang up really good job. Well, he had one and it was on the goodness of God. And it really affected me. So, I tried to do some research on it. There's not much on the goodness of God, but I thought, well, surely there's a prayer on the goodness of God, right? Well, so I found some and I kind of changed it. So some of the wording doesn't fit right, but this is how I wanted to start out the day. Dear God, when you created this earth, you looked at all you had made and you called it good. And you looked at the humans you had created and you called us very good. And despite men's sins attempt to mar your good world, Jesus, whom you sent, has conquered sin and death, bringing life, healing, and goodness into the world once more. Even though we live in a world filled with heartache, we can still taste of your goodness every day. The Lord is good to all, and his tender mercies are all over his works. Once more, those who belong to you can't get away from the goodness of you. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Because your goodness is both all around us and within us, you have promised that you are with us everywhere we go. You, our Creator God, has placed your spirit within his children, filling us with your goodness so that we become your agents of goodness in the world. Like salt slowing down natural decay, we slow down the rot of sin in this world by our presence in it, by God's Spirit working in us. The fruit of the Spirit is goodness, not our own self-made goodness, but Christ's gift of goodness to us and through us. So open our eyes today, dear God, so that we see your goodness all around us. Let us recognize your gifts of goodness in the sunrise, in the laughter, in the moment of repose, in the smile of a stranger, in the sacredness of an ordinary life. Let our hearts sing of your goodness all of our days. Amen. Do you think you can remember the goodness of God all day, every day? I mean, I don't know. It just, we can't even fathom the goodness of God. Do you know what I'm saying? Nobody's there, are they?
That is true.
Oh, we
Yeah.
hear you.
Totally. Totally agree.
And it's just, you know, if we could just remember that he is, and it's through us, that we can't do it on our own. Because I tell you what, I'm a nasty little critter if I don't have God in me. I'm just a nasty little critter.
And he's
I-
always in you.
Pardon me?
He's always in you.
Yeah. I will sign you up, Patty.
Thank you.
So at a glance, I'm just going to go through this because we have a lot to talk about, okay? But Joshua 1-5 is all about Joshua and Israel's preparation to take their land, right?
Mm-hmm.
Carol, wake up. And they crossed.
Sorry.
That's how I feel. I didn't
Do
know
with you,
anything
Sandy,
else.
not you.
Joshua 6-12 is the battles to conquer the land. So what are chapters 13-17 about?
Division of the land.
Inheritance. Yeah.
Apportionment. Hi, Laura. I saw your face for a minute.
Hi, Denise.
I think Wanda said she wasn't going to make it today. So it was the apportionment of the land, right?
Mhm.
Right.
I read this. I did not get around to my commentaries this week, so sorry about that, y'all. I don't
No
have any
problem.
great things, but I did read a little bit. And one of the things I read was God is the great landowner, owner, and land giver. You know, we get so picky about our land and stuff. Isn't that interesting if we keep it in mind that God's the one who really owns it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he created it, right?
The taxes.
One-
Yeah,
one-
one of the things,
Go ahead, Nancy.
one of the things that hit me was that the people that received the land, they had been hearing about this since they were children.
Yeah.
And their parents were children. I mean, it was like, I wondered if they appreciated that they were actually seeing it and stepping on it and feeling it and touching it. That must have been something.
Yeah, I thought about that too. So Joshua 13, I had inheritance of the 2.5 tribes east of the Jordan. So this is how I did it. You know, in 14 is inheritance of Caleb, 15 inheritance or allotment to Judah, 16 is Ephraim, and 17 is Manasseh. You can put something just as simple as that if you would like.
I do.
So what was the Lord telling Joshua about apportioning the land in chapter 13?
He was
People
too
did-
old to take it himself, so he had to let the other tribes take it from the Canaanites.
Okay. Now he was old. And he wasn't just old, he was old and advanced in years. Did you all catch that?
Yeah.
And advanced in years. I had to look that up yesterday when we were in class. I went and just grabbed expositor's commentary. And well, here I got one right here. I'll just pull it out. Let's see, that's chapter 13, right?
Have some peanut butter crackers or cheese crackers and put in better than chips.
Okay, I know you have some peanut butter chips
Yeah.
while you're eating your peanut butter.
She knows that you've been sick this week.
What is that?
Don't know. Oh,
Oh, it's Becky. Okay. Joshua is old and well advanced in years is a stereotyped expression that occurs again in 23, 1 through 2, when Joshua is still older yet. Perhaps Joshua is about the same age as Caleb, whose age is given at 85 years old in 14:10. This notice concerning Joshua's advanced age is more evidence that the conquest took a long time. It seems that Israel had experienced a letdown after the widespread victory recorded in the first part of this book. The Lord had to remind Joshua of his unfinished task. The division of the land was a part of his original commission from the Lord, and it had to be completed before Joshua died. This is one of the many places in Joshua where a fulfilled promise is set side by side with a promise yet to be fulfilled. And this is why Kay Arthur's, and I did not understand this, her title for her teaching today is his work is not over until they close the coffin. And you know, you kind of think, huh? What do you mean close the coffin? You will find out what she means by that. But what she's going to get to, and I must also throw it in here, is have you ever felt like, oh, I'm just too old to do any more of this?
Yes. Yes.
I'm allowed to retire.
Right? Yeah, I want to retire. Yeah, well, what does God say about that?
No retirement.
Retire from the kingdom.
Yeah. Kingdom work is never ended, is it?
Mm-mm.
So some of the land was not taken from the Canaanites living there. Did you get that? What else did you learn about Jacob, or what God was telling Jacob here?
Read Joshua.
When I say Jacob, I said the wrong guy, didn't I? Yeah, I'm sorry, Joshua. Too many J's in this book, you know.
Well, they were to drive them all out of the land, but there was some that did not drive them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't obedient to doing that.
Pardon me?
They weren't obedient to driving them out.
Seemed like they rather made them slaves than workers.
Yeah, they
That's
did.
'cause- God.
You know, I never, I'm sorry, my ignorance, but in verse 2 about the Philistines, so were they were a group, like an ethnic group or a group of part of the Canaanites? I always thought they were some kind of priestly class or something.
No, they were just another people.
Thank you.
And this is the first time also, I did read this, that Philistines were mentioned in the Bible.
Was the first.
I just, that's about as far as I got in the commentaries, okay? They started going into all the lands and stuff like that. And I said, my mind was just too muddled for that, to tell you the truth. But who was to drive out all the inhabitants?
The 12 tribes.
Yeah.
Sons of Israel.
And what about the Levites? When did you learn about the Levites? Now, we did some cross references in Deuteronomy and Malachi. When did you learn? This is on day 1, number 6 of your homework.
They did not get an inheritance. Their inheritance was God.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you learn anything else?
About the offerings and the sacrifice they received them, what
Mhm.
the people gave, they would receive them.
The Levites served before the Lord. They were judges, and they were to speak God's instructions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were the ones that would teach the word, and they spoke for God, didn't they?
Yeah.
When did you learn in Malachi?
On the next page.
In a life of peace.
When, Anita?
They had a life of peace. They were to be reverenced.
They were to be like the messengers from God and give wisdom.
Mhm.
I saw that. I didn't quite understand. The Levites were also supposed to continue the covenant, that they were the ones that carried the covenant.
Yeah. Very involved with the covenant. Malachi was the first class I ever led. It's a 3-week study with precepts. And I don't know, I might do it again sometime just for funs and grins, because it's still one of my favorite books, maybe because it's the first one I led a class in, but I really got into it. It is full of riches. Oh, I need to move this. So we looked at a profile of Caleb. This is on page 54 of your homework. How many people filled that out?
Didn't they know?
I actually did part of it.
It was a lot.
I did.
All right. Yeah, well, I didn't even have 50% yesterday.
Oh, follow Caleb, yes.
It's only 5 people showed up to class. But Becky's here today. I wanted to oversleep today. Well, think of this while we're going through the profile of Caleb, okay? The Lord is slow to anger and abundant
Bounding.
kindness. That's Hesed. Forgiving iniquity and transgression, which we know what those words mean now, don't we? But he will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the 3rd and 4th generations. Be careful about that iniquity, right? Keep that in mind as we're going through the profile of Caleb, okay? So what did you learn about Caleb?
Son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite.
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
One thing was he was 45 years old when Moses sent him from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land. And then 40 years later, he was still going.
Follow the Lord his God fully.
Yeah, that's the important one. Yeah.
He and Joshua were the 2 spies that came back with a correct report when they were sent to spy on the land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he and Joshua were the only ones that came back with a good report.
Mm-hmm.
Think about one, if they, how things would have changed if they would have moved on it then.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you learn about Caleb?
I don't think I realized that he was from the tribe of Judah.
I didn't either, Laura. Isn't that something?
It is. I read that. I thought, whoa.
What did he say about his strength?
He was 85 and he was just as strong as he had ever been.
Yeah, how many of us can say that today?
The other thing that I found curious is is he related to Moses via the father-in-law, the Kenizzites? Is that, I couldn't really.
No, he's from the tribe of Judah, so he's not going to be from the family of Levi.
The Levites. Well, when it talks about his brother, and it goes through the lineage. There was, I thought, and I couldn't really tell. That's why I was asking.
It's on the next
the
page.
brothers seem to be related to Moses through the father-in-law.
No,
Okay, just I need to research that some more.
it's on the
Apparently.
next page, so we'll get to it, okay? I actually
Okay.
have the family tree. But he asked for this is a picture of Caleb asking Jacob for the land, for the hill, just so you know. You know, I was there and I took this picture.
Joshua.
But he asked for the hill country. What was special about the hill country?
The Anak were there.
Yeah, the Anaks were there.
Yeah,
Is it fertile? Was
Yeah, it was fertile, and it's a hill.
yeah.
It needed to be cleared.
Strategic for battle.
Yeah. Drove out the Anakim with who were the Anakim?
The giants.
The giants, yeah. So Joshua blessed him and gave him Hebron and the Negev, or however you say that. What's the Negev? Has anybody seen the Negev? It's nothing.
It's nothing.
Just
Isn't it
saying.
desert?
Huh?
Is it desert?
Yes.
It's all desert.
Yeah, it's nothing like you've never seen nothing. it's really there isn't a bush there.
Well, it's like, oh my gosh, over there, a tree. And you go another 50 miles. Oh my gosh, a bush. And you're freaking out because you actually see something. It's not green, by the way. It's also brown, isn't it, Steve?
Mm.
The trees are not green. It's all brown. And it's rock. You think you see like in movies, you know, that's American sand that they take those pictures at, because it's not sand, it's rock.
Yeah, it's a desolation. If you've ever been out towards, Nevada or something like that, and it's
Yeah.
pretty desolate out there, but this is even more.
It is, isn't it? I said, this is just desolation. I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah, it really is a nothing like you've never seen.
And they
Yeah,
fight over this land. That's what's crazy, right, Steve?
yeah.
Question, is it more like high desert? Like not sandy desert, but high desert in Nevada is like really dry rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it looks even worse than that.
It actually does. If you can imagine, it does look worse than that.
So worse than high desert rock.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you think it looked like that when Joshua took it?
Yes,
I mean,
I
when
do. Yes, I do. Nothing really changes that much, okay? And it's only been a couple thousand years, so things really don't. In chapter 15, they were to drive out the 3 sons of Anak, okay? Now somebody mentioned this is also, some of them must have lived because we have Goliath and his brothers later on in the time of David, until David, he totally wipes them out at that time. He cuts their heads off, doesn't he? Well, what about his daughter? What was the story? Why was that even mentioned here?
I don't know.
His daughter.
Well, he challenged somebody to take the land and he would give away his daughter. Let's see, it's Debonair or Deber. I can't.
Deber.
Deber. Yeah. So he offered his daughter up.
I mean, women weren't worth much. Because the dad could
She
just.
was
I
worth
give
a
you my-
lot. She was worth.
No, she would be worth a lot. Why would he go to all that trouble to win the war if his prize was nothing? She was valuable.
May have been valuable. How would you feel if your dad said to you, I'm giving you away?
Oh, they weren't
whoever-
Americans. They weren't Americans. They didn't live up. Romance was not a thing that really happened much.
I understand. That's why I said women weren't thought highly of.
Well, actually, she was thought a lot of.
She got land later. So
Because she went to her father, and what did she do?
she asked.
asking for it.
Yeah, she just hopped off that donkey or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And said, Daddy, can I have that land over there? Oh, no, she didn't ask for land. What did she ask for?
She asked for water.
Oh, the water, the
Water.
springs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How special do you think water is in the Negev?
Oh,
Oh, it's
yeah.
worth every penny.
I'll tell you what, next week I'll show you some pictures of it, okay?
Oh, you
Yeah.
have pictures.
Oh, that I took.
Isn't it either desert or water? I mean, there's no in between.
There's very little water.
Yeah.
And these were springs.
So it's precious.
That was precious.
Yeah.
Here is, let me move this so you can see it. It's Kenizzites, not, there's another word for the Levites, okay? You have to look at the spelling, whoever was asking me that. But here, and actually, I think they found a coin, and this is the actual picture of this guy. Why was he important? Besides, you know, he married Caleb's daughter. And here's a thing, well, I could say it yesterday, I can't say it today. Othniel, I don't know. And actually, they were actually cousins.
Mm.
And they're mentioned in Joshua, Judges, and First Chronicles. What did you learn about him? This was in day 3 of your homework.
He judged Israel for 40 years.
He did. Do you think that's important?
Mm-hmm.
And actually,
He was,
go ahead.
well, he was a good judge, so.
Yeah, he was one of the first judges, and he was a good judge.
And it said the spirit came upon him. I thought that was kind of interesting.
It did, didn't it?
And there was peace in the land while he was judging.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you think that might have been important to the Israelites?
Oh, everything.
Yeah, so here's Caleb over here. He's a spy. And then his brother was the father of Othniel, okay? Yeah, I didn't realize that he was so important, you know, as it went on. I thought that was interesting. Anybody learn anything else?
His daughter's name is one of the few women mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah, another reason that she's special, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
And you're going to learn from Kay that she fully followed the Lord just like her father did. So she was special in that respect also.
Mm-hmm.
So on chapters 16 and 17, we reviewed the Canaanites. What did you learn about the Canaanites?
They became forced labor.
Okay. What does that remind you of?
Back in Egypt.
Yeah, it did me too, Cheryl. It's exactly what it reminded me. It's like, okay, here we go to Egypt again, only we're going to be the ones who's going to be in charge of the, right? But why would God not want them? And the picture might give you a little idea of why God would want them utterly destroyed.
They serve false gods and idols.
Yeah. I mean, nobody drove them completely out, did they?
No.
Once you learn in Joshua 17, 14 through 18, maybe that might have been something to poke out. All right, y'all.
They had chariots of iron. And
Yeah, the chariots of iron. And Ephraim and Manasseh, they asked for more land because we don't have enough room. What
Yeah, they
Joshua tell them to
were
go do?
He said, drive them out and you'll have.
in the forest.
Yeah, Steve, did you see any forests when you were in Israel?
They're actually, especially in the area between the seacoast and Jerusalem, that kind of midsection, the hill country.
Yeah, but yeah,
There,
the hill country had more, but it wasn't like a forest like we have, is it?
oh no, that was more like if you were to kind of imagine the around Albuquerque, New Mexico. Kind of those kind of that kind of forest.
Yeah. Oh, there's a few trees.
Yeah, it's not, you can actually get forest fires there. Matter of fact, they've been having some fires.
Last year they had a lot of. My aunt said the smoke was just horrendous in Albuquerque. She lives in Albuquerque.
Yeah, well, but Israel was actually having the same problem.
Okay.
Matter of fact, they were some of the Palestinians were burning the forest deliberately to create. So you'll actually get some, but Israel's kind of funny because you have so many different typographies in a very small, in a state the size of New Jersey.
So is it like San Diego? How like at the coast of San Diego is totally different than 15 minutes inland, which is more.
That's like where I live. It's today it's going to be 90 degrees.
Yeah.
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 So like Eastern San Diego is like, more desert, I should say, but there's trees, but Western is more.
There. I don't, it's so pronounced from nothing to something.
Yeah, and it's very, and it happens very quickly.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying about Sandy. I lived in San Diego. I've lived everywhere, okay, but not everywhere. But it seems like it. But in San Diego, you can see the mountains, but you're standing in the desert, or like
Los Angeles, you can literally see snow-capped mountains.
Yes,
but like if you look another direction, you're looking at the ocean. So there's like totally different.
Or like I visited some friends in Phoenix one time, and we played golf in the desert one day and then went up to the mountains and snow skied.
Which is so good to have these conversations, because when I was reading this, I was not picturing it the same way as what we're discussing.
Yeah, it's really something to see, and but their deserts desolate. Now another thing that was brought up that I hadn't thought about was Lebanon. What's Lebanon in the Bible known for?
The cedars. Trees.
Yeah, they're trees. Yeah, exactly. Now I've never been. We weren't allowed to go into Lebanon. It's far too dangerous to go for Americans. But we saw it. We saw the border. That's about all we saw of Lebanon. So I don't know what that would look like, or even if they have trees left. But it's and it says iron chariots belonging to the Canaanites live in Bethshan and the valley of Zerah. In the valley of Zerah, isn't that where the final battle is going to take?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, more blood has been spilt in that valley than any other place in the world. And when you look at it, you go, why? Well, it's a big area. You could have good battles, hand-to-hand combat there, but
it's also called Armageddon.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Joshua said, yeah, you are a lot of them, but you go get it, right?
Yeah. He also told him to take out the Canaanites again too.
Yeah, and they didn't.
No, they didn't. But I was surprised that these were Joseph's son, because Joseph was such a follower of Christ, and they were not. They were very disobedient to him.
Well, this is 400 years later.
Pardon me?
Also, I was thinking that Joseph, when he was working for was it the king of Egypt? He didn't he allow a lot of he was working in the famine. He was he was taking the money and giving it all to the Pharaoh, and
Mm,
the
that was his
people
job.
became slaves. So there was, that it didn't go into the judgment of that when we were reading it, but if you read between the lines, you wonder if he was really that just, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, he was doing his job, and he's still revered in the Bible.
Yeah.
But one thing that I haven't heard mentioned, remember when Jacob was, and I meant to say Jacob this time, was doing the blessing of Ephraim and Manasseh, and he blessed the younger one first?
Yes.
Do y'all remember that?
Mm-mm.
Yep. So that was all involved in here also.
Yeah.
Yep.
Judges 3:1-11, the Lord left some of the nations of the Canaanites to test Israel that they might be taught war and to find out if they would obey him. It's a sad statement that Israel allowed the Canaanites to live among them in the land of promise.
Yeah.
Maybe they liked having them as servants. I don't know.
But didn't they intermarry?
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, probably some of them, yeah, but it was really still at this time discouraged immensely.
And maybe too, when you have them there a long time, things become normal rather than sticking to what you were told to do.
Absolutely. And that gets into how much do we live in the world?
Right.
That's the application. Because when you read, I go into Blue Letter Bible, and I did a word search for Canaanites in in the book of Joshua. Okay. And that's how I come up with these. And then I copy and paste them and, do all sorts of stuff to them. But it says they did not drive out the Canaanites who lived in there, because the sons of Manasseh could not take possessions of these cities because the Canaanites persisted in living in that land. It just kept on saying, they put the Canaanites to forced labor, but they did not drive them out completely.
Yeah.
The sons of Joseph said, the hill country is not enough. And we just talked about that, but the hill country shall be yours. For though it is a forest, you shall clear it, and to its farthest borders it shall be yours. For you shall drive out the Canaanites, even though they have chariots of iron, and though they are strong. And then we were asked to actually look up Joshua 5:1 and 7:9. Now it came about when all the kings of the Amorites were beyond the Jordan of the west, and all the kings of the Canaanites were by the sea, heard how the Lord had dried the waters of the Jordan before the sons of Israel, but until they had crossed, and their hearts melted, and there was no spirit in them any longer because of the sons of Israel. So they were afraid of them at that point, weren't they?
Yes.
And then, so for the Canaanites and all their inhabitants of the land will hear of it, and they will surround us and cut off our name from the earth. And what will you do for your great name? And he's talking to God.
Wow.
What will you be willing to do for the name of God?
Kind of humorous.
Denise, this is completely off topic here, but I just sent everybody a picture of the desert near Masada,
Oh,
and also a picture of the hill.
email or what?
Yeah, in the email. I just spammed everybody. And the first one's a picture of the desert near Masada. And then
See it there? Yeah, that looks like one of my pictures.
and then the next one is kind of what it's actually hill country. That is, that's a security fence that they have between the Palestinian areas, but basically it's the hill country. And so you can kind of see how that
Looks like you're
terrain
looking
looks
into
like.
Lebanon, right?
Oh, that's going to be near the West Bank.
Oh, the West Bank. Okay.
Yeah, and so
That's about as much green as you're going to see anywhere over there.
that's just, and that was taken in June. That was taken in June of 2011. Both of those. So that kind of gives you an idea of what.
Now, that's not sand, y'all. That's
Yeah,
rock.
that's
the
the pasture.
Is that the Dead Sea?
Yes, that's that would be the Dead Sea you're seeing in the distance there.
I was thinking. And then over here, this is Jordan over here, and this is Israel on this side.
Right.
just so
right.
you have an idea. Because they said, yeah,
So but you can see there's nothing on that in the picture near Masada. There's nothing growing.
oh, yeah, I'll show you pictures from Masada, the top of Masada too.
Yeah,
Sweet.
but there's nothing there.
There's nothing
And so I didn't mean to spam your class there, but
Well,
we got
no, I mean, since we're talking about it, I should have done it in the first place, but yeah, that's, it's interesting. It really
but
is.
the second picture is kind of that area where you'd see a lot of sheep and things like that. It's kind of their scrub grazing land. And so that'd be in the hill country right along between the West Bank and Israel, kind of more in the center
Yeah.
of the country. So
Get Israel. Okay.
and I don't have any pictures of the woods.
So Denise, I got a question because it got confusing to me. It seems like Caleb was given the hill country to take, but then it says that Joseph's two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, were going to get the hill country. So is there two hill countries or
Yeah, there's
just
several.
one, or do they split it?
Yeah, there's high, what did they, how do you tell? There's the high place in the lower hills,
Okay.
right? Isn't that right?
On a wedding vacation, watch the big game.
Let's see here if I can look on this map here. Here's Hebron here, okay? And you can see that here's the Salt Sea.
These are
So there's hills there, and then around, well, there's hills all over the place. And then up in Jerusalem, there's hills all around here. And I think around Shiloh too. And there's, it's like, there's several hill country.
Okay.
Like here's a plain area, Hebrew friendly, not.
Yeah, Ephraim and Judea, that center part is going to be kind of hill country, kind of like that second picture I gave you. And then up as you get into where Manasseh and Zebulun is, it's going to open up a little bit. It's going to be low line rolling hills kind of.
And what's really funny is around the waters, like it'll be flat and then there'll be hills all around it.
Right.
Wherever water was. And it's really weird. And then the further north you go into the Lebanon area, it's more foresty there.
Right. And that's where you're going to start seeing like the black volcanic rocks as you get towards the Golan. It's actually a volcanic area. An old volcano.
A volcano there, isn't there?
It's extinct, but the rocks you see are very black because it's good building stuff. But they're very black because it's and that's what the Golan Heights is. So it's this black hard rock, and you'll see that's what they build their houses out of. Like if you go to Capernaum, that's what
too, but it's near water, so
it's near water, right?
Yeah, and so you'll see a lot more there. It's an interesting country, to say the least.
Okay.
I have no desire to go back though.
Then Ephraim instead of Manasseh.
Well, in day 5, we were to look at some cross references. What sort of things did you learn? Why did we look at these? What was Deuteronomy 20 about?
Basically, don't be afraid. The Lord will fight for you.
Yeah, and what did he tell him what did Moses tell him not to be afraid specifically about, Ray?
I didn't write that down.
But they're in
So I'd have to go back and look.
Chariots and horses.
Chariots. Yeah, their horses and their chariots. Don't be afraid of them because God was with them. Remember who brought you out of Egypt, y'all.
And that's like today, you can't just say, well, we have the most arms and that's going to win it. You have to have the Lord.
Lord,
Do, don't you? How about Psalm 20?
Boasting.
Boasting. his man name makes one stronger than those who boast in horses and chariots.
Yeah.
How
Boast
about
in the
Proverbs?
Lord's strength.
The horse is for battle, but the victory, the battle belongs to the Lord.
Victory is for God.
Psalm 60, he treads down the adversaries of his people.
Mhm.
And once you learn in Psalm 78,
Put their confidence in God and not forget the works of God.
Also, the sons of Ephraim were archers.
yeah, that was a little tidbit that we didn't know, right?
Mhm.
And want to read to remember in Psalm 105.
Remember his wonders.
Some of those I'd get carried away and read the whole psalm because they were so good. I haven't read that many psalms.
Yeah, and it's good to do that, isn't it?
Mhm.
So what
Denise,
did you, huh?
I've got a question. Did God honor Jacob's blessing Ephraim over Manasseh?
I think so. I mean, that's why he did it.
Because I wondered, Manasseh was complaining about only getting one part of land. And Ephraim got more. So it seems like.
There's a little note on that, about the numbers. Where was it?
Okay.
Where's my note? Okay, Numbers 26 lists the people of Manasseh at 52,700 and Ephraim at 32,500.
Okay.
The largest tribe was Judah at 76,500. That's why Judah got the biggest area. And it was given out by lot. And if you recall, giving it out by lot is basically throwing the dice. And they always said that that was God's designation of where they wound up.
Interesting.
The
We
last
don't
time-
believe that now, do we? Do we believe that now? I mean,
Well, the last time lots are, does anybody remember when the last time throwing lots was ever used in the Bible?
Clothing.
Pardon me?
At the cross.
Yeah.
No?
And they drew lots for Jesus's clothing.
They
No.
chose the disciple. and
Yeah,
they took-
go ahead, Catherine.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's how they did it, and it was in Acts. They said they had to pick one for the 12, and so they cast lots.
Yep. That's the last time it's used.
Oh.
Just FYI. And how do I remember that? I don't know. When you study Acts, it's something that comes up.
now who was chosen at that time?
Yes.
Started with an M, didn't it?
Yeah. Messiah.
Pius or something like that.
Matthias.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was between two guys. And so they threw the dice to pick it.
They didn't know that God was going to choose Saul.
Well, he wasn't in, he didn't have his head together yet.
Nope.
Did he?
It always makes me wonder if they didn't jump ahead of God.
Well, but
Because-
Peter, for some reason, Peter knew he needed to do that, so they did it then. And that's the only time the guy's mentioned too, which is kind of funny.
So maybe he didn't work out that well or didn't do anything.
But they didn't mention many others at all
Yeah.
after that in the Bible. All right, so
Thank you for all that.
you're welcome. I don't know where that came from, but okay. On question, day 5, number 5, there was a question I thought was interesting. And the question was, what lesson do you think God has for us today in the key phrase repeated, but they did not drive them out completely? yet they use them as forced labor.
So I made a simple statement on that, Denise, and I said, if we decide to live with sin in our lives, we will be led astray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's any amount of sin. It's you can't compromise with it. They were supposed to completely destroy it, not compromise with it or say, well, just there's a good reason for this sin. They were supposed to get rid of it all.
Yeah.
I also think that that's one of the reasons why we have the mandate of church discipline, that if you see a brother in the church going astray, you need to confront them about that. Because if you condone it and don't do anything, other people may follow suit.
Never be free.
But isn't Jesus the only one without sin? I mean, I don't know.
Well, there's kind of a difference between that we sin unintentionally and we make a decision to sin and do that as a lifestyle.
Yes, a lifestyle knowingly sinning. I was thinking that because this came up and there was something that came up I saw on Instagram this week that was, the world is cray cray, so we need to pray. And it was, I'm going to try to word this properly to not offend anyone, but I thought, okay, but this is not the right message from a church to be sending, because it had the, on that sign, it was like basically promoting sin, because then it had like all people welcome with the gay pride flag. And I thought, see, that's not, we're basically excusing sin. Please come here. And I'm like, this is maybe not the best message, because in today's society, we are ignoring sin instead of saying this is what the Bible says about sin.
Yeah, you shouldn't celebrate it. Like you might get angry, and that's a sin, but then you regret it and you
Correct.
try to
Versus
and
you daily just continue the pattern of sin is not the right message. So I think that as we condone sin in our society, like they didn't drive out the sin and the Canaanites, then you excuse 1 or 2 or 3, and then now 2 or 3 becomes 4 or 5, 10 or 12, 150.
Becomes normal.
It's now acceptable.
Right.
I think that's why Paul used yeast as an example as a metaphor of sin.
Yes.
So what I wrote on that was my message of what I saw, which was, if you see sin in your own life, you have to remove it and not repeat it, or try not to repeat it, not just excuse it as, oh, it's okay.
And that requires, I think, almost a daily examination of conscience. Is every
Yes,
day
like a
sit
daily
down,
falling on your knees, taking you up your cross and saying, okay, I failed miserably yesterday. Let's try it again today. And can I not repeat the same things?
right? You want to actually do this on a daily basis, because it set aside some time for it, because otherwise you tend to be blinded to what you just do as a habit, and it also requires reading the
Yes,
Bible.
it would become a habit, wouldn't it? I mean, like you're saying, then it's, if you don't go to the Lord in repentance 4 days in a row, now you're 4 days out of it.
Because you may not even recognize your sins, because they are habits. And so the examination of conscience, and also, but you need to read the Bible, because that's what, and see, how does this apply to me? Because a lot of times things that you never thought were sins, you go, oh, I guess that is,
Right.
Anyway.
One that convicted me at quite a while ago, and I realized it was my kids watching at school when you live in California. And I remember very clearly going to the school one day, and they were like, oh, why are they absent? And I was like, well, I could lie to you, but that would set a horrible example. Or I could tell you that we're going to the Dodgers baseball game. So we're going to the Dodgers baseball game, and you can write that in our excuse. Because I thought, I need to not just cover that up, because what example would that be after several years of my kids watching me just lie about saying they were sick? That's horrible. And I'm not saying that that to be boastful. I'm saying I was convicted very early on. You have to be brutally honest about your own motive. You know what I'm saying?
So the question you have you ever been faint-hearted, afraid, in a panic, or trembling from fear?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I was like. I fear God more than I fear this district. So I'm going to just tell you, we're going to the Dodger game.
What's the prevention? And I think you kind of mentioned it, didn't you?
Prayer and the word.
You got to be in that
Word.
word. You got to be
Yeah.
in communication
And the
with God.
word and prayer.
God
I
has to
have to do a
convict
lot of it lately with all the things that are going on in the world. You know, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, things have gotten so out of whack. Does anybody know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Here in California, the
completely
smash and grab and the violence and all
Yes.
that stuff. Last
Mhm.
night, I had 7 fire engines coming up the hill. There was a house on fire, but I live in hills all around here and it's so dry. It was just incredible. I was in a panic. It was like, I forgot to pray though. You know, I mean, through all that, it's like you go in that panic mode and you see all this activity and you wonder what fire is coming your way.
Yeah. California
Example,
definitely.
that's a real good example.
There's literally gross lack of life or respect for a human being
Yeah.
on the daily
Bad.
just assault, murder. There was where we live recently, a man who was arrested twice in 2 days because they released him, but literally not convicted, but arrested, detained, but released. And there was recently a young man who was he was riding a skateboard. It was a vehicle of 4 young men. They were arrested and bail dropped, and they're now out. 4 men that basically manslaughtered a young kid on his way to school. And if you don't have the Lord, I mean, to me, I can't reckon any of this. I just can't wrap my brain around it, because how do we have such a loss of life? Because they actually were a hit and run. It took them a couple of weeks to find the kids young men that drove into him.
And let them go.
Yeah. And then they just let these 4 men go so they can injure someone else. It's just, there's such a lack of respect for life.
Yeah, respect the law.
Mm-hmm.
Respect the law.
Jesus needs to appear and heal this area.
Well, the sad thing is it's happening in so many places. You got war and rumors of war.
And spreading.
Mhm.
Lawlessness.
Yeah.
The lawless is just as the Bible has said in Revelation.
Yeah. It's coming. We see it.
Yeah. And that's why you're gonna see it a lot after we do Beth Moore's Daniel, because it'll go into that a lot.
But remember your prayer about the goodness of God.
Yes.
Thank you, Ann.
Thanks for the hope.
Absolutely. That's our only hope.
Yeah.
Jesus is our only hope.
Thank you. Thank
He
you.
is. He is our only hope.